Hey, Washington Commanders fans, get ready, because what I'm about to tell you is the hottest and most crucial news you'll hear about our team's future this season. The upcoming bye week will be a turning point, a moment of drastic decisions that could completely change the face of our roster. Let's dive deep and reveal the 7 players who are on the hot seat with uncertain futures, and what head coach Dan Quinn and general manager Adam Peters can do to try and pull us out of this hole. Stay until the end, because this analysis will leave you shocked and with many questions about who stays and who goes. And before we continue, subscribe to the channel now and leave a like, because only here will you get the most honest and unfiltered analyses about the Commanders. Dan Quinn perfectly summed up the much anticipated bye week for the Washington Commanders. Players and coaches are disheartened with a season that promised the world and delivered almost nothing. A true disappointment for all of us. Everyone needs a break, and it comes at the right time so we can breathe and the team can regroup. The Commanders have a dismal record of 3 wins and 8 losses after the disappointing international loss to the Miami Dolphins in Spain. It was yet another game that was within our reach, but Washington made too many silly mistakes, something that has been the theme of the season. This streak of failures completely dissipated any hope, however small, of making it to the playoffs. There are still 6 games left, but we, the fans, are already looking at what promises to be a transformative offseason for general manager Adam Peters. He has a lot of work ahead. And perhaps not all problems will be solved at once, but we hope for a start. The Washington roster is full of glaring gaps in practically every position. Injuries haven't helped, of course, and we know that has greatly impacted the team's performance. But Peters needs to make some tough and courageous decisions. It starts with evaluating the current situation of the team and which players will be part of the long-term plans beyond 2025. It's time to separate the wheat from the chaff and build a solid foundation for the future, even if it means letting go of some familiar names. Not everyone will embark on this rebuilding journey. Don't be mistaken. On this subject, here are 7 players from the Commanders whose futures on the roster are at risk during the bye week and who need to step up if they want to continue wearing our colors. The pressure is enormous, and the future of many of them is at stake. Adam Peters and Dan Quinn will have to be surgical in their evaluations, thinking about what's best for the franchise's reconstruction and who can truly be part of our future. The first name on the list is Tyler Owens, our safety. He has all the athleticism in the world, is a physical force with the size, wingspan, and athleticism typically associated with productive defensive players in Dan Quinn's defensive scheme. Injuries have hindered his development, which is a shame, but the Washington Commanders haven't hidden their position regarding the young safety in Week 11 against the Miami Dolphins, and the news is not good for him. Quinn took over the responsibility of calling defensive plays from Joe Witt Jr., and there were improvements in the organization of the defense, which is a positive point. This didn't affect the overall outcome of the game, but the fact that Owens didn't step onto the field at all on defense was a telling sign of how his progress is being perceived by the head coach. It's a clear sign that he's not delivering what is expected of him, and that worries me a lot as a fan. This is very hard news for Owens. He was expected to play more, not less, as the Commanders intend to rejuvenate the roster and give opportunities to young talents. That is not what happened, and it remains to be seen whether the former star from Texas Tech will be on the 53-man roster when the 2026 season begins. There are no guarantees, and Owens' dynamism has never matched his performance on the field, not even in college. Unless there is significant improvement after the bye week, the Commanders may find themselves forced to take a different path. Next, we have Brandon Coleman, our offensive lineman. Things seemed promising for him in his second season with the Washington Commanders. He was changing positions, moving to play on the interior of the defensive line after general manager Adam Peters signed the 5-time Pro Bowl left tackle, Laramie Tunsil. Even so, most believed that was where his skills would be best utilized, and we had hoped that he could establish himself. But it didn't go well. Coleman struggled to generate any positive momentum and was benched after just 2 games, which is a sign that he did not adapt well to the new position. Chris Paul stepped in and increased the offensive line's consistency, causing the TCU product to be on the sidelines for long stretches of the season. In recent weeks, Coleman has been used as a support player in heavy packages, but little more than that, which is frustrating for a player selected in the 3rd round of the draft. The Commanders are not going to cut the player selected in the 3rd round of the 2024 draft anytime soon, as there is still an investment in him. Even so, he needs to demonstrate the necessary determination and develop throughout the preseason to have any chance of solidifying his long-term status with the club. Anything less than that, and the Commanders will have a problem on their hands, with a high-investment player who is not delivering as expected. We need players who seize opportunities, and he hasn't managed to do that consistently. The third name on the hot seat is Preston Smith, our defensive end. We, fans, were worried about the lack of pass rush options for the Commanders early in the season. Adam Peters did not prioritize this crucial position with the urgency desired, but the front office leader showed confidence in the options available. And he gained the fans' trust by leading the organization's revitalization much more quickly than expected, which gave us some hope at the beginning. Unfortunately for Peters, injuries brutally exposed the lack of depth on the roster. Dorrance Armstrong Jr. and Dietrich Wise Jr. suffered injuries that ended their seasons, leaving our defensive line in shambles and unable to pressure the opposing quarterback. The Commanders found themselves forced to scour the free agent market for reinforcements, bringing defensive end Preston Smith back for an exciting return to the team that drafted him, and we hoped he could bring a bit of his old magic. But Smith has not even met the most modest expectations. It seems that time has finally caught up with a player with 70.5 career sacks, an impressive number, but one that is not reflected in his current performance. Peters cannot ignore the importance of defense next spring, which will likely leave the player, selected in the second round of the 2015 draft, off the team. It's a tough decision, but we need players who produce on the field, and he hasn't been doing that. In fourth place, we have Chris Moore, our wide receiver. The loss of so many productive receivers has been a tough challenge for the Commanders. Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown have appeared infrequently this season due to injuries. The promising progress of Luke McCaffrey was interrupted by a clavicle fracture, a hurdle too difficult to overcome without superstar quarterback Jaden Daniels leading the offense. This has opened opportunities for other players who might otherwise have remained on the practice squad or unemployed. Chris Moore is one of them, who gained a lifeline this preseason despite struggling to meet his specific goals during the summer. Moore has had some good moments, it's true, with a few important receptions, but consistency remains an issue for him. If the Commanders want to take the next step and rebound in 2026, they cannot move forward with the options currently available, which are not delivering enough for a competitive offense. And while Moore may have a chance to reclaim his spot, it would not be the biggest surprise in the world to see him cut for good. The competition for roster spots will be fierce with the return of veterans and the quest for new talent in the draft and free agency. He needs to show something different if he wants to secure his place. And we need players who seize opportunities and are consistent on the field, something he has not been able to do regularly. The fifth player on the hot seat is Quan Martin, our safety. Everyone involved with the Washington Commanders was eager for a standout season from Quan Martin. The athletic safety showed encouraging progress in 2024 under the leadership of Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. This was enough for Adam Peters to make him the main player, letting Jeremy Chinn go to the Las Vegas Raiders in free agency, which shows the confidence the management had in him. Considering how high the standard was set, Martin has not come close to meeting it. He has been a complete disaster against the run game, struggling with tackling and filling gaps. His coverage skills have regressed and defensive support is shaky. Add to that the frustrating number of missed tackles, and it's not hard to see how far the standards have fallen. As a fan, I'm very disappointed with his performance, which is well below expectations. Martin's grade of 49.4, assigned by Pro Football Focus, places him 82nd among 91 qualified safeties, an alarming number for a player who was supposed to be one of our leaders on defense. It would be an epic bombshell if the former Illinois star were cut, but the Commanders need to rethink his role moving forward. We cannot afford to have a player performing at such a low level in such a crucial position for our defense. He needs to show drastic improvement, or his future with the team will be seriously at risk. In sixth place, we have Ben Sinnate, our tight end. Ben Sinnate is nearly 2 years into his professional career, after being selected 53rd overall in the 2024 NFL Draft, and the Commanders have no idea what his long-term role will be. The tight end has shown potential as a blocker when called upon, but remains sidelined compared to other players at the position, which is concerning for such a high draft pick. Something is preventing the Commanders from involving Sinnate in the offense. We fans expected his role to increase exponentially in his second year, but he has been on the field for only 29% of the team's offensive plays, a very low number for a player with his potential. And now doubts are emerging about whether someone like undrafted rookie Colson Yankov could offer more in the coming weeks, which places even more pressure on Sinnate. Sinnate missed Week 11 due to injury, but he is not expected to be out for long. The Commanders need to evaluate him for a longer period after the bye week, giving him more chances to prove his worth. Otherwise, this will say everything fans need to know about his future with the team. We need tight ends who can be threats on offense and contribute consistently, and he hasn't been able to do that yet. Finally, the seventh player on the hot seat is Johnny Newton, our defensive lineman. Most fans expected Johnny Newton to be the standout in Week 11 against the Miami Dolphins. Darren Payne was suspended for the confrontation after hitting Detroit Lions wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown, and we thought Newton would seize the chance to shine as a starter. But the Commanders made it clear they lacked confidence in the second-year defensive tackle. Newton barely exceeded his season average in snap percentage, which is disappointing for a player who was supposed to be one of our leaders on the defensive line. The Commanders deployed veteran Eddie Goldman, a run-stopping specialist, on early downs, and he performed well. This caused Newton once again to take on rotational responsibilities, which was deeply disappointing for a player who wanted more and needed to prove his value. Just like with Ben Sinnate, the Commanders are not going to give up on Newton so soon. They invested heavily in the 36th overall pick of the 2024 draft, but it's evident that his integration isn't going as smoothly as some experts projected before he was drafted. The Commanders aren't playing for much more than pride for the remainder of the season. Putting more responsibilities on Newton in the 6 remaining games would be a wise decision, and that will define his future in Washington. He needs to seize this opportunity with both hands and show that he deserves to be a key piece in our defense for the future. As a fan, I know this season has been a disaster, but the bye week is the chance for Adam Peters and Dan Quinn to make the necessary changes for the future. These 7 players are under the microscope, and their performances in the upcoming games, or lack thereof, could seal their fates. It's a make-or-break moment for many of them, and we hope the management makes the right decisions to pull the Commanders out of this hole and lead us back to the playoffs. Now I want to know your honest and unfiltered opinion about these 7 players on the hot seat. Which one do you think is most likely to be cut or have their role reduced after the bye week? And which one do you believe can still turn it around and solidify their place on the team? And more importantly, if you were general manager Adam Peters, what would be your toughest decision regarding these players?